Your rent-to-rent marketing is rubbish. Let's be honest, most rent-to-renters suck at marketing. You neglect the brand, you send out a few messages and hope for the best, and then wonder why all you're doing is getting ignored. Crickets. If that sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not alone. The truth is, most property courses don't give you the guidance on the marketing to get the results. And the problem with that is that means that you have to do all the hard work rather than creating a business where the leads actually find you. That is how I did over 20 rent-to-rent deals in my first 12 months. And what I'm going to show you on the video is the reason my community have over 1,000 rent-to-rent cash flowing deals. So sit back, grab a coffee, and let me show you what the property courses don't for free. The biggest mistake I see people making when they want to start a rent-to-rent business is they set up a limited company, which is good. This is the right thing you should do in most cases. They set up a limited company, but this is where it goes wrong. They're kind of not sure exactly how to position it, how to brand it, how to set up the marketing and all this stuff. So what they'll do is they'll have mixed messages. They'll try and appeal to their landlords. They'll try and appeal to the agents. They'll then go on and try and appeal to the tenants, sometimes even the guests, if you're doing serviced accommodation. But this is where it really starts to get stupid. And I see this all the time, by the way. They will then try and appeal to the investors through the same branding, the same messaging, the same website. And last but not least, this really takes the biscuit. They'll even try and do a bit of deal sourcing. The big problem with this is, can you imagine, all right? Can you imagine you are a customer and what happens is you go into this limited company's world and all of a sudden you've got all these different messages here. What happens is it gets really, really confusing and this prospect doesn't know whether they're coming or they're going. They don't understand if it's property management. Does it work with agents? Does it work for tenants? Like, what about this deal sourcing stuff? What about this investor stuff? Now, there's so much wrong with this because when you think about most brands that you love, that you value, that you invest in, it's really clear what their messaging is. You know, Nike, just do it. Like, they've got really clear messaging, okay? Some of my favorite movies, favorite books, favorite food, favorite tech companies, they're all very much targeted at me, which is why I buy it. But when you're brand new to property, a lot of these property courses, they're showing you the different strategies, but what they're not showing you is how to actually deal with it. So the first problem is a really, really confused consumer or customer. By the way, confused customers don't buy. Okay, I see so many of you losing rent-to-rent deals because you've just confused the landlord or agent. That is one of the number one reasons why people do not buy, all right? The second big thing here is, guess who else is confused? You. You're confused now because you're not sure how to build the website or what the branding should be or what the messaging should be or where the leaflet should be focused on. So what tends to happen is you just get so confused. There's just so many questions. This stops you from actually taking massive action. And I've seen this myself, all right? I've seen this myself and I'm going to touch more on that later. But the third and possibly the biggest issue, this is such a big issue with what I've just described, is what happens, guys, is let's pretend these are your progress bars. And I'm only going to do 4, but I know a lot of you are doing more stuff. And let's say, for example, this is rent to rent. This is deal sourcing. Okay, this is you focusing on, let's say, raising finance. And let's say this fourth one is you just focusing on attracting tenants before you need to. If you split your attention 4 ways, what you're going to find is rent to rent is going to be around here. You're going to write deal sourcing is going to be around here. investors, hardly anything. Tenants is irrelevant, guys. You ain't got a property yet. You don't need to focus on the tenants. So tenants is going to be low anyway. But the real challenge you're going to find, and I'm going to use an orange for this, is it's not until you reach this level, okay, this top level here, that's where you get the results. Okay, so if these tanks do not fill up, you're never going to get a result. And if you focus on all four things, you will never get there. So why not just focus fully on rent to rent, okay, and just ignore these other things. Ignore trying to deal source, try to focus on investment, and not ignore the tenants until you've actually got yourself a deal. Then we can move on to this. Now, I'm going to share the right way of doing this in just a few moments. But before I do, I want to tell you a story. When I first started, I actually tried to do deal sourcing. All right. And I was going out there and trying to source property investments, and it felt good because it was very low, if not no money down. But the problem I found with deal sourcing was it wasn't consistent recurring income. It was like work once, earn once. And a lot of it was out of my control, because it meant that if a buyer or a seller or anybody sort of fell out of bed, my deal fell out of bed. Plus, I was having to wait ages to get paid. So I was kind of doing deal sourcing branding. And then I decided I want to add rent to rent to that. So then I had some deal sourcing branding. I had some rent to rent branding for landlords. I was trying it with the agents. I was even trying it with the tenants. And what happened? Well, quite literally was nothing. Okay. The prospect was confused. I was confused. And my attention was split so much as I've just described that I got no results until one night, 3 a.m. in the morning, penny dropped. I woke up and I realized, all I need to do is focus on one avatar initially, get that dialed in. And I woke up, I jumped straight on my laptop and started building the branding and the website out. And what was crazy was the very next day, the conversations I was having were completely different. Because all I was doing was focused on one key messaging. The communication I was having was simple. The outbound marketing strategies were simple. Everything was refined. And within a week, I started picking up huge momentum. And this has not only worked for me, but it's worked with thousands of my mentees now. When I implement this stuff for them, they see the same changes. And this is why somebody with no experience can get set up within 10 days and their first deal within 6 weeks. Hope you're getting value from the video. If you're looking to get more rent-to-rent deals, okay, generate more money from the deals that you've got, or perhaps systemize your portfolio to free up your time so you're not giving yourself another day job, go ahead, hit the link below, book a call with me or my team, and let's see if we can help you on your way. Anyway, back to the video. Now you know the wrong way of doing it. Let's talk about the right way. You still want to create that limited company. Maybe you've already got one. That's okay, no problem. So you want to create your limited company. But this is where it differs. Instead of you working on loads of stuff, all you want to do is you want to work on your landlord facing business. Now, the good news is this is not another limited company. This is just a trading business. But now, can you see how clear you can be now? Now you're just focused on the landlords. All the messaging can be super simple. Let me give you an example. Now, when we're thinking of a branding name, when we're thinking of a name, we could just think of landlord facing names. It can be about rent. It could be about guaranteed rent. It could be about ease. It could be about freedom. It could be about 360 degrees property management. All of those things that if we was also trying to appeal to agents and we was trying to appeal to tenants and guests and investors and deal sourcing, we wouldn't be able to do. So the first advantage of this is we can now focus on the name, all right? The second big one is, let's imagine you do a website. Okay, well, when it comes to a header, let's pretend this is a H4 header. Now the header can be just specifically focused on landlords. So we could say property management with ease, or we could say 360-degree property management, or we could say no headache property management, or whatever it is. But we are calling out to our key audience, which is now the landlords. All right. The next step is, in terms of the call to action, which, by the way, CTA should always be immediately under the header so that people don't have to scroll. Now we can say, hey, call to book in your viewing, or call for guaranteed rent. We could say call for no more headaches. I don't know, whatever it is. But the language is aimed at the landlord. And finally, if you imagine this website, also what we can do is, if we decide we want to do sort of 3 key selling points, unique selling points, they can all be tailored towards a solution. So number 1 could be guaranteed rent. Number 2 could be all the management and maintenance. Number 3 could be, free cosmetic refurbs, for example, or whatever you want to do. And that is all very niche down and focused on your current audience. So first advantage, name. Absolute clarity. Second advantage is going to be when you are dealing with your website, you can really dial it in. And the third advantage, look, there's loads more, but the third advantage here is if you think about your social media, okay, all the posts now, all the language, all the carousels can now be focused specifically on the landlords rather than you having to also advertise to other avatars. That is powerful. Even the hashtags can be tailored towards property management, and it's really clear. Picture this, all right? If you are a customer and you walk into a shop and you really, really fancy a pizza, and the shop from the outside looks like, maybe it sells pizza. You go in there and it's selling every different single cuisine. You don't know what to do. You just be like, you know what? It's going to go Domino's. It's going to go Papa John's, right? So what it does is it removes all of that confusion for the prospect. And as I said, confused prospects do not buy, all right? Now, this is where it really gets genius. So what happens is at the beginning, you're going to be focused specifically on the landlords, okay? Now, disclaimer, guys, disclaimer. If you do this correctly, at some point you will be able to add messaging for the agents, but let me level with you. Agents are going to be good up until a certain point. For me, I found it to be around 25 deals. Once I got to 25 deals, they started seeing me as a threat because I became a household name. All right. So you really need to focus on the landlords long term. But then once you've got your properties, well, all we do now, okay, is we just create a second trading business. And this one is going to be focused on either T for tenants or G for guests if you're doing serviced accommodation. And this messaging is all about them. So let's go back through it. Let's look at the company name. Okay, the company name now, you just want to focus on all things tenants. Could be beautiful house shares. Okay, it could be modern rooms, great prices. It could be, home away from home. Or if you're doing serviced accommodation, it could be short stay bliss. Everything is tailored towards the tenants or the guests. When you go to the website, all of a sudden the header now is going to be the best rooms in Manchester. Best house shares in Manchester. Oh, okay. Can you see how if you had that and a landlord dropped on your website, it wouldn't work? So you're kind of half-assing it rather than really targeting. Call to action, okay? Arrange a viewing now, okay? Click to see our available rooms, okay? Click to book now. And then the 1, 2, 3, if we take serviced accommodation as an example, you could have high-speed internet. You could have free parking. You could have early check-ins. Really tailored towards your target avatar. And then once again, social media, your call to actions and all your languages should be showcasing your properties to attract tenants or guests. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, does this mean I have to set up multiple limited companies? No, it doesn't, guys. This is just one limited company, but you've got 2 trading names. And the thing is, once you've got this really dialed in, I normally recommend around 20 properties. Then if you want to bolt on another sort of business or trading business, such as deal sourcing, it then makes sense. And what you can do on your primary branding is you can actually always have a button, okay, that then connects the two different brands. But when we go to the deal sourcing, for example, the language would be different as well. It could be, let us do the hard work and source properties for you. Language going to be different.